AP News in brief at 6:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Summit fever. Trump reaches for big moment with Putin. Helsinki. AP, a face-to-face sit-down with a long-feared foe. Endless media hype. Huge ratings. Although President Donald Trump has met with Russia's Vladimir Putin twice before, he is eager to recreate in Finland the heady experience that he had last month with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Singapore, a summit that became a mass media event complete with powerful presidential images. Ever the showman and insistent on establishing closer ties to Moscow, Trump overruled his advisors and demanded the rituals and pageantry of a formal summit. Trump had boasted to confidants about the number of cameras in Singapore, claiming it dwarfed coverage of the Oscars, according to a person familiar with his thinking but not authorized to discuss private conversations, and so spoke on condition of anonymity. Though Trump originally expressed concern that Helsinki was not glamorous enough and favored hosting Putin at the White House, the president was reassured by aides that it would be an effective backdrop. And long believing in the power of personal connections, he has insisted to aides that it was essential to sit down with Putin to establish a rapport. "He's been very nice to me the times I've met him. I've been nice to him. He's a competitor," Trump said of Putin last week in Brussels. "You know, somebody was saying, is he an enemy? No, he's not my enemy. Is he a friend? No, I don't know him well enough." Drawing on his experience as a marketer and salesman, Trump has long been convinced that his mastery of powerful images has been essential to his political rise. The president has told advisors that the Singapore diplomacy made him look like a take-charge president. And it was not lost on him that his poll numbers received a temporary bump after the meeting. What Trump and Putin hope to achieve at Helsinki Summit. Helsinki, AP, the outcome of the first summit between the unpredictable first-term American president and Russia's steely-eyed longtime leader is anybody's guess. With no set agenda, this summit could veer between spectacle and substance. As Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin head into Monday's meeting in Helsinki, here's a look at what each president may be hoping to achieve. What Trump wants from Russia has long been one of the great mysteries of his presidency. The president will go into the summit followed by whispers about his ties to Moscow, questions that have grown only more urgent since the Justice Department last week indicted 12 Russian military intelligence officers accused of interfering in the 2016 election in an effort to help Trump. And while most summits featuring an American president are carefully scripted affairs designed to produce a tangible result, Trump will go face-to-face with Putin having done scant preparation, possessing no clear agenda and saddled with a track record that, despite his protests, suggests he may not sharply challenge his Russian counterpart over election meddling. Young Nubians revive dream of returning to land in Egypt. Aswan, Egypt, AP, the world of their parents and grandparents was turned upside down more than 50 years ago when they were evacuated from villages along the Nile River to make way for the high dam. Now a younger generation has revived the long-dormant cause of Egypt's Nubians, campaigning for a return to their lands and struggling to preserve their culture. Their timing could not have been worse. Recent peaceful marches by Nubians were met by swift suppression from the government of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, which has shown little tolerance for dissent. To a state dominated by the military and security agencies, Nubians' assertion of their distinct identity and heritage amid the Arab majority looks like a threat to stability. This country has so many colors and ethnicities, and it is so destructive that we are trying to give it just one identity, said Fatma Imam, a Nubian activist born and raised in Cairo. Even during her days at university, she recalled, the message instilled was that the country should be homogeneous. "It is painful for me that I am unable to manifest my identity," she said. "I see Egypt as a mosaic, _____s. Korea probes army plan for troops to control protesters. Seoul, South Korea, AP, a group of army generals rolling tanks and troops into Seoul to seize power. paratroopers firing at large crowds calling for democracy, tanks and armored vehicles stationed at universities to intimidate student protesters. Such scenes of military intervention in South Korea have been non-existent since the country achieved democracy in the late 1980s. But revelations this past week of a document showing the military drafted plans to mobilize troops to suppress protests last year have struck a nerve among people in one of Asia's most vibrant and wealthiest democracies. Some allege the plans even included a scenario for a coup. The memories of brutal, military-backed dictatorship that imprisoned, tortured and executed dissidents remain vivid to many South Koreans. But most experts say the actual chances for another coup in South Korea are extremely low. A look at the explosive revelations and why a coup is nearly impossible to pull off today. Eruption of scandal. U.S. judge criticizes plan to reunify families split at border. San Diego, AP. Federal judge, responding to a plan to reunify children separated at the border, said he was having second thoughts about his belief that the Trump administration was acting in good faith to comply with his orders. The Justice Department on Friday filed a plan to reunify more than 2,500 children age 5 and older by a court-imposed deadline of July 26 using truncated procedures to verify parentage and perform background checks, which exclude DNA testing and other steps it took to reunify children under 5. The administration said the abbreviated vetting puts children at significant safety risk but is needed to meet the deadline. Chris Meekins, Deputy Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary for Preparedness and Response, filed a declaration that he is fully committed to meeting the deadline. However, he does not believe the placing of children into such situations is consistent with the mission of HHS or my core values. U.S. District Judge Dana Sabra took umbrage at Meekins' statement, disputing the official's interpretation of his orders and saying that safe reunification could and will occur by July 26. Trump's remarks about changing European culture draw ire. Washington, AP. President Donald Trump's lament this week that immigration is changing the culture of Europe echoed rising anti-immigrant feelings on both sides of the Atlantic, where Europe and the United States are going through a demographic transformation that makes some of the white majority uncomfortable. Historians and advocates immediately denounced Trump's comments, saying such talk would encourage white nationalists. The way he put this argument about changing our culture, about Europe becoming less nice than it is. In other words, these people are here and they are making the culture crappy and making the place lesser. That's straight out of the white supremacist, white nationalist playbook, said Heidi Beirich, director of the Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Project. Trump, in an interview with the British newspaper The Sun, blamed immigration for a changing culture in Europe. I think allowing millions and millions of people to come into Europe is very, very sad. I think you are losing your culture. Look around. You go through certain areas that didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago. Trump, the grandson of a German immigrant and the son of a Scottish immigrant to the United States, repeated his contention at a news conference with British Prime Minister Theresa May. U.S. official, Russia using social media to divide Americans. Philadelphia, AP. The U.S. Homeland Security Secretary said on Saturday there are no signs that Russia is targeting this year's midterm elections with the same scale or scope it targeted the 2016 presidential election. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen spoke at a convention of state secretaries of state, an event that's usually a low-key affair highlighting voter registration, balloting devices and election security issues that don't get much public attention. But coming amid fresh allegations into Russia's attempts to sway the 2016 election, the sessions on election security have a higher level of urgency and interest. Nielsen said her agency will help state and local election officials prepare their systems for cyberattacks from Russia or elsewhere. She said U.S. intelligence officials are seeing persistent Russian efforts using social media, sympathetic spokespeople and other fronts to sow discord and divisiveness amongst the American people, though not necessarily focused on specific politicians or political campaigns. The conference of top state election officials she addressed was sandwiched between Friday's indictments of 12 Russian military intelligence officers alleged to have hacked into Democratic Party and campaign accounts and Monday's long-awaited meeting between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump has never condemned Russia over meddling in the 2016 election despite the findings of all top U.S. intelligence agencies, and the Kremlin has insisted it didn't meddle in the U.S. election. In the past, Trump has reiterated Putin's denials, but this week he said he would bring up the issue when they meet on Monday in Finland. Angry crowd protests after Chicago police fatally shoot man. Chicago, AP, an angry crowd shouted and threw bottles at Chicago police after an officer fatally shot a man on the city's south side Saturday, prompting the arrest of at least 4 demonstrators. Chicago Police Patrol Chief Fred Waller told a news conference that the man was shot in the South Shore neighborhood after police officers on foot tried to question him because the bulge around his waistband suggested he was armed. The man became combative and eventually broke free from the officers, Waller said. They thought he appeared to be reaching for a weapon, which he did have a weapon on him, and the officers tragically shot him, he said. The unidentified man was taken to a local hospital and pronounced dead. Waller said police believe the man did not have a concealed carry permit for the semi-automatic weapon. He also had magazines of ammunition, Waller said. Immediately after the shooting, an angry crowd gathered and began jostling with police, who had cordoned off the area. Waller said protesters threw bottles and jumped on top of a squad car. Police then moved in wielding batons to stop them. Russian women push back at shaming over World Cup dating. Moscow, AP, hundreds of thousands of foreign men have flooded into Russia for the month-long World Cup, setting off a fierce debate in the host nation about the roles and rights of women. Russian women who have dated the soccer fans have been shamed by some Russian commentators, denounced for allegedly undermining the country's morals and gene pool. The widespread, vehement criticism has shown the dominance of patriarchal and sexist views in Russia, where the concept of gender equality is a generation behind that of the West's. Still, the reaction against Russian women's World Cup dalliances has been so strong that some feminists in Russia think it could actually advance their cause by shocking even conservative women who wouldn't identify themselves as feminists. Even those women are saying, "Enough is enough, you've gone too far," feminist writer Snezana Gribatskaya said. Haiti's Prime Minister resigns amid fuel price hike fallout. Port-au-Prince, Haiti, AP, Haitian Prime Minister Jacques-Guy Lafontaine resigned Saturday amid calls for him to step down over his handling of a failed plan to raise fuel prices that set off a wave of deadly protests. Lafontaine told Haiti's Chamber of Deputies that he sent President Jovenel Moïse his resignation letter. Moïse confirmed via Twitter that he had accepted Lafontaine's resignation along with those of other cabinet members. The Prime Minister's abrupt resignation came ahead of a vote on a motion of censure Lafontaine, a first step toward asking that Moïse name a new Prime Minister to form a cabinet to handle the crises. The Prime Minister is the second highest official in Haiti after the President. Lafontaine was to answer questions about the July 6-8 riots that followed the government's attempt to raise fuel prices by up to 51% as part of an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. At least 7 people were killed and dozens of businesses were looted during the unrest. Instead, Lafontaine used the opportunity to announce his resignation, while in various parts of Haiti small protests were held demanding the head of state step down. Copyright 2018 The Associated Press. All rights reserved. This material may not be published, broadcast, written or redistributed.